I'm Alex Hirsch, the narrator of the black and white old lady period piece boring movie channel.
Hi, I'm Michael Rianda. I was a creative director and I co-wrote this episode.
And I'm Rob Renzetti. I'm the supervising producer on the series.
This was a big, important episode for this series. This was something where we knew that Dipper's crush on Wendy was going to be a big part of the show. We knew we wanted Wendy to be this really memorable, great character, but we weren't entirely sure how to do it. And I remember when we were trying to crack the first episode, you and me even came up with an episode. We're like, what if the first episode is like Dipper's got a crush on Wendy? Remember the Bury Your Feelings episode? Mm-hmm. And I remember you, Rob, saying, it's your first episode. You have to build to this. Your first episode is sell your main characters. Are you out of your mind? And we were like, yeah, Rob's right on this one.
We would like, he would leave the room and be like, we could still do it though, right? And then we would try to work on it, and then he's like, God,
Rob was right. It's impossible. Well, and me and Mike, I think we both had our fair share of unrequited crushes when we were, in middle school and high school. And
Alex is a liar. I have 12 girlfriends right now.
Yeah, they're all waiting by the car.
They're all around they're all here in the studio with me right now.
And so this was like a very sort of personal story, we could relate to. And this idea of like, okay, how about this crush episode is set with the backdrop of, we do our haunted house episode, but being Gravity Falls, it can't just be in a haunted house. Let's make it weird. Let's put it somewhere unexpected. I think that might have been Rob's idea to put it in the mini mart. And I was like, mini mart, that feels like a teenager thing. That feels right. And I got to give, the first drafts of this episode were done by Mike, and so much of Mike is in this. The friend group, inspired by Mike's real friends, and the reason I think that they feel like they have a believable dynamic is it's a real dynamic.
Yeah. Right.
It's you've got the friends who are always horsing around. You've got the one friend who everybody's got a nickname for, and they kind of razz on him, but they love him anyway. All that's real.
Their last name and
the last name thing.
It's sort of like, are they in on the joke or not? And it's like you love them, but they're also part of their role in the group is like, hey, Thompson, this guy.
Well, I feel like everyone at some point has been a Thompson and has also been the guy shouting Thompson.
Totally.
Like it sort of goes around.
Yeah, I've been called Rianda before, and I was like, don't call me Rianda, guys. My name is Michael.
So the last scene that we created in this whole episode is the one you just watched. Yep. Because in early versions of this story, we were still figuring out what is the conflict.
Yeah.
What is Dipper's issue? And also the motivation of this episode is Dipper's crush on Wendy. But we realized in order for us to care about Dipper's crush on Wendy, we need to fall in love with Wendy.
Right.
And that scene in the opening
really hard to crack.
Was something that I don't think it was in the script. We did it in animatic, didn't we? It was like we watched the whole episode and we were like, I don't care about what Dipper wants. Yeah. And it wasn't until we added the scene where Wendy's got the secret hiding space and we realize she's kind of got her own life and we see her friends. And Mabel says, like, you've got a crush. And Dipper's like, it's not like I think about her. And we cut to the crush.
Yeah.
Like, prior to that, we just felt like we didn't care about his desire.
But what are the 3 episodes before this? We really don't see Wendy a lot in the first
it's like
3
we
episodes.
need to get to know her before we can care. This is also another very late addition, the idea that it was all about this lie about the age. Because we were still trying to figure out what's the conflict. Like, we knew that the crush was an issue. We knew he's trying to hang with this group. He's not, but we needed an arc. We needed a clear arc.
Yep. Yeah.
And the idea, he lies about being 13 so he can specifically undo that lie at the end of the episode.
Yeah. That cold open that we were talking about, like, that was one where it was like we were trying so hard to come up with that intro to get us to like, who is Wendy? And it's like, she's a rule breaker, and she's like the fun rule breaking friend that you knew when you were a kid. I remember like writing, not the full thing because like Alex way punched it up and made it better, but like I remember writing that cold opening one night, and it was like, I talk about a lot of like through these commentaries, a lot of like painful moments, like, oh, this was hard and this is hard. That was like the best moment I ever had on the show, was like writing that cold open and then like walking around Burbank at 3 a.m. and getting a breakfast burrito from 7-Eleven and triumphantly eating it. Like, I've done it.
Love it. Well, and that I remember reading that because like that was what was so great about collaborating with Mike, is like we both watched this episode and said we need a new opening where people fall in love, even though it's late in the game and the boards have already been drawn, and you're the only person who'd be crazy enough to be like, let's do it. Let's stay up all night.
Yeah.
And I remember you wrote a draft. And I read it, and it was just like this. The whole concept of being up on the roof, that was all your idea. And it was something where it's like everyone knows that cool camp counselor.
Yeah.
Who, when you're a kid, you're like, wait, they get to do adult stuff like drive cars, but they also do kid stuff like eating candy. What?
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing. And it was like it was so necessary to set this up. This is also a real life experience that you've experienced.
Yeah. Speaking of me being the Thompson, I would always tell my friends like, guys, my mom wants you to stop punching the roof. They're like, yeah, Mike, cool. Punch the roof. Punch the roof.
It was also something that I've talked about a lot when it comes to how do you define characters? Because your first couple episodes of your series, really all you're doing is sell the characters again and again. Sell them. One of the best ways that you can show personality is show how two characters react very differently to a new situation.
Yeah.
Like Mabel's loving it. Dipper's so stressed out. This scene has become kind of a classic, and it was such a throwaway when we did it. This is... I think one of Mike's specialties is adding really emotional moments, and one of my specialties is adding just dumb sounding words.
I mean, the panoply of shows that appear on Gravity Falls television is amazing in their stupidity, and almost all of that is attributable to Alex.
Yeah, this is one of those jokes where it's so rare that I make myself laugh while writing because I'm so analytical, but when I wrote The Duchess Approved starring Sturley Stemmelburgess as the Duchess and Granted St. Rumter Frabble as a Razable Coxswain Saunter Blugget Habter Fuppetshire, I made myself laugh. And I was like, I don't know why that's I can't even explain. To me, the joke is British names are old and they sound kind of silly.
It's funny because it just keeps going.
Because it's so dumb.
Because there are so many weird syllables that you think it's going to be over about halfway before it is.
This is very real, this child memory of being stressed out
so horrible
to do something like climb a
so
fence in front of
horrible
everybody.
climbing anything when I was a child. Oh God.
Well, that moment I always think of as the collaboration between me and Alex at its best, where it's I was the scene's got to be real. It's got to be like when you were a kid, and so it was my thing where he was trying to climb the fence.
Well, and you do a draft where it was 8 pages of him climbing the fence.
Exactly. And then Alex cut it down and then added this goofy Mabel joke where she's doing the curly thing around
doing the curly shuffle.
And it's I was that's unrealistic, but I watched it with an audience and that got a crazy laugh because it's pointing at a real thing, which is just Mabel has no fear and Dipper has only fear.
Yes.
Well, to me, it's that joke is written from Dipper's perspective. It's when you're having that hard a time, it seems like everyone else is practically just giggling and rolling around and doing cartwheels. That's how easy it seems for other people.
Totally.
This is a great scene for Dipper.
Yeah. He gets a moment here. After being humiliated by being tossed off a fence.
Dipper using his rage to get in there and because Dipper is a clever guy. He would think of an idea like this, but it could only take the motivation of pure unbridled being emasculated to get him to want to do this. And there's a number of episodes that deal with Dipper's insecurity issues. And we talked about the Manitor is an episode that I always felt too unrealistic. I love the depiction of how he deals with those.
This is the best
the
version.
Social pressures, it all feels very real to me.
This is very that's why this is a fan favorite. I think it's not just the crush aspect, but it's just Dipper being
very relatable.
It's very relatable, and Dipper's very relatable in this episode.
Hey, dude, where do you think they keep the dead bodies?
Shut up, man.
Guys, check it out. You think they still work?
Nice. Whoa. That's unbelievable.
Jackpot.
I gotta, as always, mention our background artists. I think it was Josh Parpan who did a lot of the colors on this. Our team did such a good job of making this place feel just like a fun, regular market that anywhere, but then turning it terrifying when the lights go out.
I remember seeing the backgrounds for this, and I ran into literally sprinted into Ian Worrell's office, and I was like, dude, you just made the episode 5 times better, because every scene was tracking the emotions so well.
Yeah.
And it was also gorgeous at the same time. Because sometimes animated backgrounds would be beautiful, but they wouldn't serve the story.
Well, there's a theory in television that funny shows can't also look good.
Yeah.
And I very much disagree with that.
That's a dumb theory.
I think that any show should have its own visual style, but this show is funny and the backgrounds are beautiful.
Let's talk about
let's talk about
let's talk about Aaron Springer.
Yeah, Aaron Springer's amazing dogs.
this is all Aaron Springer here.
Yeah. So
at his best.
I don't, Mike. What was the origin of Mabel eating expired candy? I know it was in the script very early. Something we always talked about.
Yeah.
It was just a way to get her out of the way, right? We needed her out of the way.
I think that was it, right?
And it was to give her like a little mini C story or something. Yeah, exactly. Because she should be telling Dipper the right thing to do here, but it was better to just give her some bizarre one-off gag.
Yeah.
Because at this point, Dipper should tell everybody what's going on and get them out of there. But he's just too afraid of the social consequences.
Well, and we figured that if Dipper and Mabel could team up, they would. I never wanted to see a situation where Dipper's like, Mabel, there's a monster, and she's like, I don't believe you. A monster?
Right.
Like that whole thing on the wing dynamic, like it works for something like Courage the Cowardly Dog, but like Dipper and Mabel know each other. And they've seen stuff. So if Dipper's like, Mabel, there's a ghost, she'd be like, well, nuts. Let's either see it or leave.
Yeah.
So we had to have her somewhere else.
Yeah. Totally.
And I'm very happy with the solution. I also got to give Aaron Springer credit. He was the director of this episode, and so many of those crazy poses, like the ones you just saw with Dipper opening up that thing and scrambling, were drawn by him. Whenever the model it sort of breaks for a really great visual expression or gag, it's usually Aaron.
Yeah, and also we stole the monster from The Watchmen. So just know.
The monster in the freezer?
Yeah, the monster in the freezer is not exactly from The Watchmen, but it's a little bit.
I never really knew what that was. I remember seeing that in the board. I was like, that's 10 times weirder than I ever imagined, but sure, all right, whatever.
And speaking of like elevating the episode, Brad Brink's music in this, like I feel like brings it up a whole letter grade because it makes it really legitimately scary.
Well, and it's scary, but it's also specific. Like he was like, when he did this episode, he was like, what do you think, John Carpenter?
Yeah.
Think John Carpenter? And I was like, yeah, sure. I couldn't quite picture it in my head, and then I heard it. I was like, oh yeah. That both does the kind of Gravity Falls nostalgia and the horror so well. Mike, this was the second episode that we wrote together, wasn't it? Because we wrote Gobblewonker, and then we wrote this one together. And I remember there was a lot of drafts on the script, and it was a struggle.
Totally.
It was totally a struggle.
No, this is the one. This is the one where it's like Aaron Springer was my hero growing up. Like I stalked him online, I found him on ICQ, and I was like, Aaron Springer, I'm a fan. What advice do you have?
Aaron Springer did.
Was
this Tyler Chen?
This is Tyler Chen.
Okay.
And Aoshima is the name of one of our directors.
That's right.
But I was a giant fan of Aaron Springer, and he was directing this episode, and I was so freaked out. And we wrote the script, and like Alex punched it up at the last minute and made it like 10 times funnier. And I was like, oh, thank God. And then we read it out loud to Aaron Springer, and he was just stone faced the entire time. And it's like,
which
Aaron's
didn't stress me out because like
that's how Aaron reacted.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I had added a bunch of jokes. I wasn't feeling like I was like, this is just one of many episodes I got to stress out about. But this is this is the one episode Mike's working on at the time, and it's like he's put his heart and soul into it.
All I'm saying is, why tempt the fates? I mean, what if this place really is haunted? Oh, come on.
Just take it down a notch, Captain Buzzkill.
But I thought I was Dr. Funtimes.
Well, you're acting like Captain Buzzkill, right?
Yeah, little bit.
Status update. Trapped in store with insane 9-year-old.
I'm not a 9-year-old. I'm 13, technically a teen.
This was an early one where we stressed a lot.
Well, it took many
took
passes, and like to be fair, like it didn't really come together until very late in the game. Like that scene where Dipper's laying down in the chalk outline, and he's saying like, "I'm a teenager."
Right.
That didn't exist.
That was a lot of like I remember there was a story meeting with the board team, like Aaron and Tyler Chen and Mark Garcia, who did a lot of great stuff on this episode. There was this big story meeting with all you guys where you came up with a lot of that stuff, and I feel like kind of fixed the episode.
Well, we did a pitch, and then it wasn't working, and it was like that was a late idea. I was like, okay, it's got to be. We do this thing where he says he's 13, and then we have to track it through the episode.
Yeah.
So if that's his sin, lying about his age, then he needs to double down on it and needs to track with the problem. And because when we did those original drafts of the script, right? Like we didn't know why the ghosts were haunting these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like weren't there a bunch of other completely different ideas about why that weren't on theme until we cracked it?
Yeah, totally. And it was like, I remember too, it was like we took a lot of risks and stuff where it was like, I remember we were so freaked out about like the Lammy Lammy dance. And it wasn't until like, again, this is another like weird vindication moment where Ian Worrell was like, hey man, I read the script, I really liked it. And I like hugged him, and I was like so like tired and smelly. He was like, dude, don't, please, God, don't. But it was so nice that it seemed like it was working.
Now,
well, in the Lammy dance, I just have to say, this comes from Mike's real life.
Yeah, my sister
God.
literally used to dress me up like a lamb.
Why are these things real, Mike? Why are they real?
It was like, Mom's gone.
What is
it's
gone?
time to bust out the lamb costume. And I was like,
Good Lord.
people like me.
Oh no.
And
No.
And I loved it. And then she would later show pictures of it to her friends, and I was like, no, it's not cool anymore.
In a million years, it never occurred to I would never think of a joke like that. That came from reality. Like
it's hard.
Like
to
Mike's
real.
terrible pain is something we processed for comedy.
Oh, God, yes.
This crazy gag with possessed Mabel, which I love.
This seems like this was late too, wasn't it? This whole idea.
This is a lot of Tyler jokes where he's like, you gotta try these dogs.
Yeah, one of our reporters, Tyler, added some jokes. Well, this was something that I had come up with this episode premise called Sweater Off Dead. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
Where it was about Mabel gets a haunted sweater from a swap meet, and it's haunted by the ghost of the old lady who died in it, and she becomes possessed, and they're all trapped in the shack, and they have to perform like a sweater exorcism on her. And they've got like knitting needles, they're making a cross. Like the idea of Mabel hovering like the exorcist doing a voice was super funny, but could never actually crack a story for it. And it was just like, I had that image in my head, and I'm like, well, let's just do it here.
Yeah.
And like Kevin Michael Richardson, he does the voice of the ghost.
Yeah.
In Northwest Manor, he does it here. Nobody does a scarier ghost than him. It's so good how straight he plays it.
And he's so funny. Like, Kevin
so
Michael Richardson
talented.
in the booth is like one of the funniest people.
It's sort of unbelievable how talented he is. Like he's like a third of all voices in Hollywood, and nobody else can do what he does. This was, threading all these plot lines and making them work was tough. And I do remember that when we were done with this, you know, me and Mike kind of, so much time was spent in the animatic, you know, changing dialogue, adding scenes, trying to fix stuff, cutting things. And the harder episodes often we would remember the first storyboard pitch to the crew and how it felt.
Yeah.
And an episode like this did okay. And so in our hearts, we were like, we screwed it up.
Yeah.
And I remember this is something where like, and the Lammy dance, we were like, this is crazy. And like, we listened to the song and we were like, this is kind of hard to stomach. And I remember by the end of it, like, we weren't really sure if we had nailed it on this one.
I feel like before we got the
audience reaction, we
thought this was a bomb.
for sure if it was a standout.
I don't know.
Alex did this drawing of me where I'm in the editing room and like clicking a pen against my head, and like, because like the Lammy dance was just playing over and over because we were trying to cut it, and I was just like, I created this nightmare.
Yeah, I'm the architect of this nightmare.
It feels more like you were just trying to exercise your own demons. I mean, since this happened to you, I mean,
this rap was fun to write. This is the first and last rap I'll ever write.
Why
I'm
bother?
not a lyrical mastermind, Rob. I'm not like Rap Master Rob Renzetti over here. Rob is wearing a gold tracksuit right now.
Of course,
You
as
can't
I always
see
do.
it, but like, there's a lot of audio interference from all of his gold chains.
Deserved interference.
In the original version of the script, there was like, I had like 4 pages of the old man just loving the lamb costume, like, yes, dance in your fanciful manner, boy. And Alex is like, this is the same joke for 4 pages, but it made me laugh so
Let's
hard.
cut it down to 1 page.
Yeah.
And we get he'll just snap his finger. Just make it simple.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing that Alex did that sort of like no one would ever notice is that we cut, like, because typically the length of these episodes is like 22 minutes, and Alex was like, we just got to cut this episode down. Let's just have it be a 20 or 19-minute episode or something. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why it was successful, is because like we got rid of all the fat.
Sure,
you know?
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to, you know, if there's 2 good things and something kind of mediocre in the middle, if we can, we try to cut the mediocre thing.
I mean,
or if we can do the same joke in less time.
And you know, props to Disney for giving us the flexibility to make the shows different lengths, because you don't always have that flexibility. They can be very strict.
Yeah, and it is rare.
Disney Channel has the
well,
luxury.
they don't do that anymore, but at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Channel does, XD doesn't. There's programming rules. This was I remember I thought it was really sweet the way that Wendy
protects Dipper.
Yeah, she knows the social stakes. She gets it. And it's an unspoken thing.
Yeah.
Like, up until this point, you know, like, she's been chill with him. They've been getting along. But there's been this feeling that, like, he's on the outside and he's not really her friend yet. And the moment she's willing to just say this about him without him even asking for it, like, suddenly the friendship is real.
Yeah.
It's a really important moment.
Well, because it was super important to us, because it's like, we've all seen, and things have gotten better since we were making this, but we've all seen stories about like love interests that are just there to be a love interest and they're not a character.
Right.
And we were like just fighting as hard as we could to make Wendy like a real viable character that could have stories on her own and stuff. And it was like moments like that where she stood up for Dipper when she didn't have to.
Where you start to get to know her. But I will say that we always wanted to do a full Wendy episode, and we never cracked one, because I feel like part of it was this character that we've created here is so chill and likable that when you put her in a situation where you have to make her commit the sin where she has to learn 21 minutes of story, it was like, it doesn't feel like that awesome Wendy we know. And I know there's a way we could have done it, but we never quite...
There were like 5 dead
solved
episodes.
it.
It was tough.
Yeah, we tried many times and could never quite land it.
I mean...
we wanted to honor her so much that we couldn't figure out the right episode with her because we didn't want to mess her up.
Yeah.
Right.
Couldn't find the remote.